So perhaps the person who really ought to be presenting this is PC Ferreira. I have no idea what the P and the C stand for. He's only known as PC Ferreira. So he's a farmer exactly halfway between Cape Town and Johannesburg on the N1, just 8 kilometers. And he somehow had the vision to start this thing which he called the New Home Lodge. New Home is the name of the farm. And he tried for a long time to find somebody who would take him seriously as a biodiversity person wanting to practice biodiversity and farming at the same time. And eventually, he stumbled across me, and I stumbled across him, and I realized that that this guy had amazing passion for biodiversity, and now we've worked together quite closely for a period of 4 or 5 years now, and developed, or I think I've perhaps helped him develop his vision, and he's helped me develop mine. So over the next few minutes, we'll take you to a sheep farm in the Karoo. So the mission here is doing food security and biodiversity conservation compatibly. And that's what PC's vision is, what my vision is as well. So this is not buying up land and turning it into a nature reserve. This is trying to do both at the same time, the best we can. And I think it's one of the big challenges that we face into the future, is food security and biodiversity conservation. So I'm going to try and show you what we've started, a little bit of what we have in mind, and describe some of the ways in which you people can get involved in this place. So this is what the Karoo looks like. PC tells me that he's actually on the top of that little koppie in the top right-hand corner at the moment. He's doing a braai for guests up there. It looks like nothing from below, but when you get to the top, it's actually a very, very impressive view over an enormously large area. So these photos were taken about a year ago, when this part of the world had the most amazing rainfall. It really, really was wet in January, February, March last year. So it's a well-established sheep farm, going back 100 years or more. Amazing birds on it as well. This is the dam on the farm. And we've made what we call a soft start with what we are rather grandly calling the Karoo Research Centre at the New Home Lodge. This sign went up 2nd of April last year. So we've made start. The chap with his shoulder next to BDI is Joran Das. He's one of the other directors of the BDI, and the bloke on the right is PC. This was the team of young people we had there. On the left is Melissa Bal, who is from Turkey, and the other three are from the Basque country in Spain, Itaso, John and Josu. And John and Josu were the people who actually did the bulk of the starting research that I'm going to be telling you about. So, Karoo Squad. So, PC has this lodge, and it's very popular. It's exactly halfway between Cape Town and Joburg, 8 kilometers off the N1, just far enough that you can't hear the rumble of the trucks going past. And after dinner, he bundles people onto his game viewer and takes them off on what he calls a Shy 5 drive. So John and Josu were on these trips every possible time between the 8th of February last year and the 26th of June. PC is driving, talking, spotlighting, so he doesn't have a chance to actually collect data. So John and Joshu's job on the vehicle was to collect data. So that a total of 43 night drives that they did and collected data. And guess what the percentages were of each of the species. So amazingly, and I can't see the one at the top, Aardwolf, I think it's 56%, and then aardvark 47%. 47% of night drives you see an aardvark, and so this is kind of exceptional figures, I think, because these are really, really hard things to see. My daughter went there last year, and she told me afterwards that aardvark had been in the same pigeonhole of mythical animals as the unicorn until she went to PC's place. So John and Joshu collected a whole bunch of explanatory variables to go along with the position of each animal, and so our explanatory variables to try and explain the likelihood of seeing aardvark, aardwolf, etc. on a particular night drive. So with aardvark, the moon, phase of the moon, was the most important variable in terms of your probability of seeing an aardvark. So this is their plot. So as the moon illumination gets more, from 0 to 100%, 100% is full moon, the probability of seeing an aardvark decreases. 87% up at the top left, and I can't see the figure at the bottom. Was about 17% at the bottom left. So the phase of the moon, the amount of moon, is an important variable in determining whether you have a good chance of seeing an aardvark or not on a night drive. Aardwolf, the explanatory variables that were most significant were maximum temperature, maximum humidity, and you can see the patterns there. I can't see the number in the thing. I think it's 88% if you're in the best conditions and only 12% in the worst conditions. The porcupine, it was once again, it was moon. That was the key variable. You saw them most when the moon was least. So this is, from PC's perspective, incredibly valuable information from a planning and marketing perspective. And it was such simple data to collect. And it amazes me that, that nobody's come to me and said, this has all been done before. So it seems to be novel, but I'd love to be told that there are other studies like this as well. And what you have to remind yourself is that you're not doing this on a nature reserve. You're doing this on a sheep farm. This is just an ordinary sheep farm, fully productive in sheep. And PC has discovered that he has all these gems of opportunities to actually show his visitor animals which are nocturnal animals, which are generally regarded as extremely difficult to see. So another thing that John and Joshu pioneered for us were waterbird counts. There's the New Holm Dam on the farm, built 1946. It's as old as I am. 120 hectares in the area. When it was full, it overflowed for the first time last summer. And my hypothesis was that as the surrounding countryside dried out, the birds would come to the dam as a kind of a dry season refuge, but it never dried up and it just stayed wet. and bird numbers, in fact, stayed quite low over the period. So my hypothesis about what the bird numbers would do didn't come true. So there's white-breasted cormorants in the background, spoonbills in the foreground, in the water, and in the grass, right in the foreground, there are all sorts of little shorebirds, curlew sandpipers, stints, things like that, hopping around. So they paddle around the edge of the dam when it was full, 18th of February last year, and then they paddle around the edge of the dam when it was 27th of June, technically midwinter, and you can hardly see the difference in water levels. So the countryside remained extremely wet, and the birds remained in the productive wetlands in the Karoo veld, rather than actually come to the drought refuge. So here's a couple of results on the right. There's a little stint. Little stint is a bird that migrates to Siberia in Russia, right at the far north, directly north of India, Taimyr Peninsula. That's where they breed. And you can see they started arriving at Newholm Dam. February, numbers built up, March, April, and then just at the end of April, they all took off and they migrated and went to off on this trip to Siberia, and this was the period in which they fatten for migration, and if you just did the typical midsummer, midwinter count that normally gets done for wetlands, you would have missed that completely. So these were weekly counts that they did. And then at the bottom, white-breasted cormorant was the only species that sort of increased quite remarkably at the end of summer. No idea why white-breasted cormorant stuck out like that. So this is a short-term project which we should be doing continuously to actually monitor the bird movements at this dam. And we've done it at a very unusual period in the rain cycle. So it's an important set of data that we collected. We tried working on various other things. So here's Ryan Tippett, who knows a lot about dung beetles, taught by Christian de Schott at University of Pretoria. We started a bit late, and we had a big rain event, and it never warmed up. So we never really got going with the dung beetle work, but there's a lot of opportunity to do some dung beetle research here and many other places in the Karoo. Ryan helped us develop a little information brochure about dragonflies and damselflies in this conservancy, in this Khoisan Karoo Conservancy, as it's known, and Ryan has produced the most amazing set of identification blogs on the dragonflies, and we just listed the 19 species that occur here. So this is a place where you can come and start, learning about dragonflies. It's a small minority interest, but it's an important one. And here's the photo that was used to advertise this presentation. Josu from Spain spotted this bird that looked like a starling, had a red beak, and he decided it was a red-billed oxpecker, and we all kind of laughed at him, but he had the last laugh because he was right. So this was an oxpecker wildly out of range. There's a small herd of buffalo at Newholm, maybe 3 or 4 kilometers away from this, but the oxpecker was only ever seen on sheep and cows and lost the other animal, 3 animals. So We wrote this up into this little journal called Biodiversity Observations. It's a journal which we publish ourselves. Anybody can publish in it. And it's a journal which is devoted to reporting observations. So there's a huge gap in the market for this kind of reporting, because the mainstream journals rightly now are focused on question-driven research. And any little observation like this, and important observations like this, are lost because there's nowhere to publish them. And we've started publishing biodiversity observations from all over the world. We seem to be meeting a demand. It's an online journal. You just Google biodiversity observations and you find it easily. One of the things that we are really wanting to do at New Home is to set up South Africa's first proper bird observatory. So a bird observatory is the core of its business is usually bird ringing, and most of them are focused on monitoring migration in places where birds concentrate on migration. Our bird observatory here at New Home will concentrate on things like survival, on molt, the way birds replace their feathers, movements over short distances, the annual processes. So we'll have a bird observatory, but a completely different set of objectives to most of the bird observatories in the world. And we've done quite a bit of work here over a few years now, and we've really demonstrated that this is a top-class site for doing this kind of activity. So here we're mist netting at the edge of the dam. Bird on the right is a little stint, and those feathers, so it was trapped on the 4th of September last year, and it would have migrated north with those feathers and migrated south with those feathers again, probably crossed the war zone in Ukraine twice in the process, because that's the route to the tundra. And those feathers have got something like 24,000 kilometers of migration distance on the clock, and they're still looking in pretty good nick. So on average, we know that molt, primary molt, the molt of the main flight feathers, starts 17th of October in South Africa. It takes 124 days. That's the amount of time that it takes to produce high quality feathers, and finishes on the 18th of February. So arriving on the 4th of September, it's got a few weeks to recuperate from the migration, and then start this next business of molt. 18th of February, pretty soon after that, it has to start gaining weight, like we saw in the earlier thing with the numbers. Start gaining weight, fat, fuel for migration back northwards. So untangling those sorts of stories is very much part of our objective. We have bird ringing courses here, and the next one is in the first week of September this year. And you'll find this all on the BDI website. The second Bird Atlas project has been running since 2007, and it's become clear that this is a really excellent tool for monitoring birds. And most of the SABAP2 atlasing is done totally unsystematically. So we've set ourselves the goal of atlasing 24 grid cells called pentads around the New Home Lodge in each season of the year, and that will give us really great data to see how bird distributions are changing with good systematic data through time. Great data, great citizen scientist involvement, And amazingly, a byproduct of this is actually creating a network of interested farmers. So we're getting the farmers involved as well. And then from PC's perspective, it's advertising for New Home, and it's also it's bed nights for him, and the bed nights that those people generate when they go home and talk about this involvement. So it's good for the science, and it's good for the business as well. So the financial and the research things are intertwined. We're trying hard to do the research, which is important from PC's perspective to improve the financial bottom line of his lodge. Running a lodge is not a recipe for making lots of money fast. It's hard work. So we believe that the night drive data that we've collected can be used in marketing and improving the visitor experience. The atlasing and waterbird counts and all the bird ringing can help create a hub of activity. The bird information helps generate realistic expectations for visitors. You know, you go to Kirstenbosch and you get the bird list for Kirstenbosch, and they proudly have this incredibly long list, and it includes Cape Gannet, because somebody sometime saw a Cape Gannet which was taking the shortcut from False Bay to Table Bay and ended up on the Kirstenbosch lawns, and therefore it's on the bird list. And those sorts of things really create false expectations. So we are trying to create realistic expectations, and a list of 19 dragonflies is a realistic list of what you can actually expect to get there. So PC is focused on the shy five. I believe there's also a real value in actually focusing on the tiny five, the small animals that we need to generate real interest for, because they are important for our survival too. So all the talking that gets done, all the blogs that we produce, the articles that come in newspapers, they all represent additional advertising for not just for the project, but actually for the lodge and for the developing that there. So we believe that appropriately chosen research increases occupancy and helps the financial bottom line. So we're not just in it for the research, we're doing it for with the economics in mind as well. So PC has two visions, which are in the starting phases. So the one is to create a conservancy in the Secoy River Valley. This was an area which was designated for protected area expansion. So it's an area which has been rated as of conservation value. And at the same time, it's an area of huge food importance. We can't just turn it into a nature reserve. What we lose in food production is huge by doing that. So the idea is a conservancy where we do both as best we can. And so this is one of PC's visions, is to stretch his property, which is here at the Star, more or less in the center, is to get buy-in from the farmers to actually create this conservancy. And it would run all the way from the escarpment into the Doornkloof Nature Reserve, which is on the banks of the Van der Kloof Dam, Orange River. And the second vision is one which I think is even more difficult, and that's the Karoo Oasis route. So the Northern Cape Tourism has appointed this little committee to develop this Oasis route. It includes some of the really, really poor towns of the Northern Cape. Really hard place to get tourism going, as you see from the pictures on the right. But there's blue sky, there's good location. It's right on the N1. Property is cheap. The biodiversity is amazing. So in many ways, this area has got lots and lots of things, good things going for it. PC is the chair of this committee, and we have to address the issue of just how untidy and difficult these towns are and how unappealing they look. So that's one of PC's challenges that he's working on. And so these are three categories of opportunities we've thought about: natural science opportunities, projects that we've already started, and there are all sorts of other projects that can be dreamed up as well. Then there's the social science opportunities, the Conservancy, the Karoo Oasis route, which really involves upliftment of this whole rural community out of pretty serious poverty. And then there's the economic opportunities of how farming and conservation can be done in parallel. And then finally, how can you be part of this? So if you're starting a PhD in Kimberley, then this is a potential place for being based to do your MSc or PhD or even your postdoc. Well, you could be based at any university. So this is a guest house. There's accommodation. You aren't on your own. There's visitors coming and going all the time. So there's really interesting people passing through to chat to. So research can be an extremely lonely business. So if you're an academic, you can use the research center as a study site for your postgraduate students. There are opportunities for students at European University to do electives as part of their undergraduate courses, and we would cater for that sort of enterprise at New Home. You can have little conferences here. Great place, great accommodation, great food, and have groups coming and helping them to understand the value of biodiversity. As I've said, you can get trained as a bird ringer. You can help with bird monitoring through the Bird Atlas project. You can come here as a volunteer. PC actually has people staying at New Home who just opted out of the rat race, and they actually live there, and he makes provision for that. Internet connection is superb. It's exactly halfway between Joburg and Cape Town, and 8 kilometers off the N1. It's a great place to spend a night or two when you're traveling between Cape Town and Joburg. And then there's these towns which need to be rescued from oblivion. And so when you retire, you can buy yourself a house in Hanover, renovate it, and help pull this little town back to profitability. So that slide, I think, captures the mood of the country at the moment. South Africa, a lot of gloominess, but hopefully there's hope on the horizon. So that's thank you, and I've not acknowledged or put the photographers on the photos, but there's a wide range of people whose photos I've used, and I'm grateful for them letting me use them. Right, thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer questions if you like to ask questions. Thanks.
I'm going to open the floor, or the screen rather, for question and answers. If you have any questions, please raise your hand with the reaction tools that Zoom so kindly provided. If not, I will start in the chat, or just wave at me. Jump up and down if you don't know how to use the reaction tools, and I'll try and see you. The team can help me as well. But no questions. Let's see here. There was from Kuba from the chat section. You might consider leaving the mist nets for a night or two to determine the bat population and encourage birding by day and batting by night. The Gauteng bat interest group, who are active at Nyama Lodge, adjacent to the Kruger National Park, might be a good thinking partner.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Bridget Poole just saying that it's an inspirational talk. Sorry, I have to leave. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, at all? Oh, there's Marty. Thank you, Marty.
How's it, Les? Thanks for the awesome talk. I've got a friend who's got a place in the Khoisan Karoo, and he actually runs a farm, a lodge in that there as well. So, I mean, I was just interested, do you think that this sort of model is something that can be rolled out to a lot more farms, or do you think it's going to be saturated when it goes to too many places? I'm just interested how far this can go.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important question. And so when you drive around the countryside, there are so many people vying for the tourism business. It must be really difficult for everybody to survive. So and I think what PC is doing is he's trying to provide something which is a unique experience. I think if any other farmer in the Karoo put his guests, any sheep farmer in the Karoo put his guests on a game viewer and took them around at night, they would also find that they had the same proportion of drives with aardvark and aardwolf. And somehow PC has just managed to exploit that opportunity and just discovered it at the right time. I've absolutely no idea how repeatable this is and how it can be rolled out. I think every tourism person has to somehow find their unique opportunity, their unique selling point. So PC has this inestimable good fortune of being 8 kilometers off the N1, exactly halfway between Cape Town and Johannesburg. That's kind of, it's a gift position, and even then it's not easy. So I think it's going to be really, really tough to do something in the Khoisan Karoo, where I'm told not to drive because it chews up tires.
Well, I was going to add, so that's exactly the thing. So part of the charm of these little places and interesting things is where they are. They're in the back end of nowhere, and it's actually very difficult to get to with a vehicle that's normal or low or whatever. So yeah, but once you've been there, it actually bites you big time, and it's amazing. You kind of miss the nothingness and that absolute stark beauty and ruggedness and whatever. So yeah, thanks for the talk. It was interesting.
Yeah, I'd if you contact me, I'll happily chat to you some more and actually explore possibilities from another perspective. So could we do bird ringing courses there, for example? Bird ringers love to go to unusual spots. So we're also thinking of that. We've got we do bird ringing courses not just at New Holm, but we do them in other places as well.
So I am also a bird ringer, not qualified yet, but I've been bird ringing at Melville's Koppies for years, and I've did a course with Dieter Osjadlis at Wackerstrom. So I am also hooked on that too.
Okay, so
Thanks.
we must make contact, and I must talk to you about that. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks,
Great.
Les.
Excellent, Marty.
Thanks, Marty. Tebogo, screen's all yours.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, I can't turn my video on. I'm load shedding, so I'm in the dark.
No worries. We can hear you loud and clearly.
All right. First of all, thank you, Les, for that presentation. I must say that I'm fortunate that I managed to visit the new homes last year. We were there for a peer learning, and New Homes is actually one of our stewardship sites for the Northern Cape Department of Agriculture and Environmental Affairs. And we've been trying to set up a second peer learning with the MEC involved, because we've had challenges with declaring stewardship sites and having them expressing that stewardship is not just a model for conservation, but it's also a living, working landscape that has farming and conservation, working together in parallel. And I don't know, but we would love to have you do the talk in the peer learning that we are planning to have. And we also have AZF, I don't know if you've heard of it, the Arid Zone Ecology Forum. And it's taking place later this year in October. And there is a section for food security versus conservation. And I believe that this talk can be a great model that showcases that conservation and farming can work together in parallel.
Right. It sounds like the two of us should talk offline as well. That's excellent. Thank you. I'm delighted to meet you.
Thank you very much, Tebogo. Then back to the chat from Derek Hothwell. Do Karoo sheep farmers worry about livestock raiding predators? I'm well aware that it is a common problem with farmers sharing the same space as the wildlife.
Yes. So certainly this is a sheep farm where you wouldn't survive with your neighbors as a sheep farmer if you didn't play your role in predator control. So I don't think there's very much predation taking place, because all the surrounding farms are sheep farms. So the predator control is, I think, pretty good. But that's is a big issue when farms get taken out of the sort of sheep farming system and just become somehow hobby nature reserves, and the predator control is released, and then there becomes problems with the neighbors. That certainly is something which has to be addressed and kept in touch with. So I'm not the expert to talk about this, but I know that it's a big issue. So I can sometimes happily hide behind the fact that I'm a statistician. That's my. You can ask me about random numbers and things like that, but when I easily get beyond the area in which I'm actually really knowledgeable, and I'm very quick to admit it. And that's one which I know is a difficult nettle that we're going to have to cross in the future. But for now, certainly it's a sheep farm. So yes, the predator animal control is maintained. and on all the neighboring sheep farms as well. So it's uniformly sheep farm, and so it's I think there's a uniform maintenance of predator control, and when you have uniform maintenance of predator control, I think it's easier to do. It's more difficult when you've got nature reserves on your border.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Les. And on that note, I have a question, maybe before we go on, and it adds to Marty's question and the question of neighboring farmers. Some of the animals that you mentioned, especially the aardwolf and the aardvark and all those, have really big home ranges. Are there any collaborations between the farm, the Holmes farm, and the farmers next door about making, I know it's a sheep farm and it's always difficult, but making like corridors for some of these animals to roam a bit freely, if you think about fences and all of those? Take fences and fences and like into account.
As far as I know, and as far as I see the interactions, PC is good neighbors with good interactions with his neighbors. I don't think I've done anything special in terms of home range, and certainly of corridors, but I certainly don't think that that PC does anything special to look after his aardvark and aardwolf. They're just there, and any other farmer would just have them there as well if they just did the initiative to go and look and to set up the same thing. I'm sure that's the case.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. There's lots of questions in the chat, and I promise I'll try and get to them all. Dalien van der Merwe, how do you determine the balance where the livestock do not impact on the biodiversity? That's another.
That's a question that the statistician finds difficult. The reality is, I think, is that the farm is stocked with sheep at the recommended rate for the area. So I think the Department of Agriculture has a sort of a recommended rate, and I think they keep within that rate. So I don't think any special concession is actually made. Well, the aardvark and the aardwolf, they just all happily coexist, and that's that seems to be the reality. So it's it's a sheep farm, and that's the primary business, and we're sort of exploring the relationships, and it's just amazing just how it seems that everything just happily coexists at this place.
Lovely. Marty, I'll get to you now. Thank you, Les. I just want to quickly in the chat, Dr. Tadeo Rasuka from Uganda is asking, are there any opportunities for postdocs in conservation, ecology, or biology?
Oh, yes, you could certainly do projects, and there's accommodation there of several types. We have no funding for these things, so you'd have to come with your own funding. There's university in Bloemfontein, which is the closest one. University in Kimberley, which is in the same province, but not the closest and the most convenient to reach. So there are academic institutions close by, and I would put up my hand to help mentor a postdoc if needed.
Lovely.
But there's no funding, unfortunately, at this stage.
Wonderful. Thank you, Les. Marty, I think you can unmute yourself, if I'm not mistaken. Nope. Sorry. There we go.
Cool. Thanks. So I just wanted to, you concentrated sort of mainly on the aardwolf, aardvark Cape porcupine and the bat-eared fox. And I understand, those are very difficult to see, but what about the other not so farmer-friendly carnivores, for example, the leopard and the caracal? Are they seeing those sorts of animals on the night drives as well? And
No.
historically, there's always been problems. Yeah.
So as far as I know, this is not an area which has had leopards, not for a long time. The caracal are never seen on night drives, and nor are jackals. You never hear a jackal in the area. So it's there are species which are just not part of the night drive. The species which a lot of people find the most fascinating on a night drive is a spring hare. People who haven't encountered spring hare just cannot get to grips with this thing that looks like a miniature kangaroo, and you see lots and lots of them, and they're very entertaining. And I think it's also true now to say, and as I've experienced these night drives myself over the past few years, the animals have become more and more unaware of it. So they don't move off when the light shines on them. They just keep about doing their business, and you actually get amazing views of the spring hare hops across the road in front of the vehicle close by and generates lots of oohs and ahs, and the aardvark across the road in front of the vehicle, and that's amazing to see. So I hesitate to use the word habituated, but that is the reality of what's happened, is that they've just become just unaware of the vehicle and the light.
I mean, would you say that those other species have actually been eradicated from those areas? And if the caracal came back, would there be a way to actually encourage the farmers to be able to cohabitate was probably the better word, or with them, or would that sort of extermination and hunting be brought back again?
I've absolutely no idea what the answer to that question would be. I think it's you need some sort of social ecologist person to actually help resolve those issues between in the farming community. It's a difficult issue. Certainly, predators are just regarded as vermin, bad news. Ondier, I think, is the word.
Maybe another PhD study. Thanks, Liz.
Well, no, there's lots of opportunities there.
Morty, if I may, Jason, I'll get to you now, but I grew up on a farm almost like this, just outside of Kimberley, and I remember seeing one aardwolf once when I was small, but we never ever encountered. I never saw in all of my years of growing up there, jackal or caracal or any leopard. They were all literally hunted out ages and ages ago. And I'm absolutely sure, just to add to your question, just because of the lack of knowledge, and we'll get to Cheryl Ogilvy's question now about education, just the lack of knowledge that if you were to see a caracal now, any farmer would shoot it right on the spot. I know they hunt the spring hare for fun, which is horrific, but yeah, I don't remember ever seeing one. And I know, I mean, they occur there, they're supposed to occur there, but in all of my years I've never seen one, which is sad, actually, quite sad. But I remember the aardwolf, that was quite special. Cool. And then Jason, your hand's been up for a while.
Hello everybody. Hello Liz, thank you very much for your talk. It was particularly pertinent for me because I'm a relatively new farmer in the Kamdabua. So there is one farmer out there that's not shooting every predator that he sees. But I'm helped, of course, by the fact that I farm cattle and not small stock. My neighbors, however, in the time that I've been farming, have done nothing but put pressure on me to join the hunt, which I don't do. You started your talk by saying that there's a big tussle between food security and sort of conventional conservation efforts. I think, you know, outside of all the points that you raised around data collection and in order to get tourist draw, there's another big argument for it, and that is job creation. If I've understood it correctly, ecotourism employs 4 times more people than a conventional agricultural stock farmer. And so that for me is another way of food security, understanding that we farm in very impoverished rural populations where unemployment is soaring, not getting better, where most farmers have moved their labor off the land. And so it seems to me a massive argument of why it's so important to give conservation and ecotourism a hug.
Yeah. So I'm told, and I don't have this on authority, but if you don't hunt your jackals, then my understanding is that you get proper territorial jackals.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And instead of getting all these hooligan floaters which just pass through, and when there's no stable territory holders. So I'm told that you're better off leaving your territorial jackals and not have hooligan jackals. There's a study at UCT, and I can't remember the person who did it, who actually showed that the yield of mutton was greater in the years when the predator control was less than when predator control was more. And that was a study in the Ceres district a bunch of years ago. And it seemed to me to be a remarkable study. I couldn't find the flaws in the design or that, and it seemed to be quite large sample sizes. And it doesn't seem to be a study that's enjoyed wide publicity. If you want me to send it to you, I'm sure I could locate it and do that.
So I've tried to have that argument many times over a Kamdabur braai, and you try that position. But I completely subscribe. And of course, what happens is the established jackal pair keep out all the youngsters, and more than that, they don't breed. They don't have as many pups. So that's so you're just creating a bigger rod for your own back, no matter how many helicopter shoots you organize. But yeah, jackal are welcome too on our farm.
Jason, that whole problem of jackals and caracals seems to be just a really, really hard issue to deal with. That's what my PhD student Chorus Daniel, what she would call a wicked problem.
Yeah.
Wicked problems that don't have easy answers.
Well, we had a spotted hyena in the valley literally 3 weeks ago. It's an escapee from Addo, and I tell you, half the valley, who are conservation minded, we were trying to organize the cage, get it darted, find someone to take it, and the other half was they forgot their sheep, their goats, their cows. They were out with a rifle and they beat us to it, and it was literally a race for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's the reality.
It is the reality. Thank you very much, Jason, for that. And then I'm going to ask Dr. Cheryl Ogilvy's question, and it links with your question about job creation, Jason, very well. Have you thought about schools in the area instilling the love through nature? Children could play a vital role, show them how it's done, and early childhood development. It's a very good question, and I think it's all about population. We're talking about one of the least populated places in the country. People are few and far between, but it's a good point, Cheryl. Very, very good point. There are very few schools in that area. Les?
Yeah. So So PC has a project proposal which has been funded by the lottery. It's a project that I'm not involved in any shape or form, and it involves bees. It involves cleaning up these rural towns like Hanover, giving the people who present a bag of rubbish, giving them some sort of food voucher that somehow or other cannot be turned into liquor, and so this is very much part of PC's vision. Is the need to actually operate at that level as well. So if I have any criticism of PC, is that he has more ideas than it's responsible for one person to have in terms of vision for things that need to be done. And so this lottery funded project, I think, addresses that issue of education of school children. So he's got 2 school teachers in Hanover who are lined up to be assistants in this thing. And if we could actually make find ways of actually getting them out to out there when we're having ringing events, we would be delighted to actually show kids bird ringing. The reality is that an awful lot of people who are ornithologists will say to you that the thing which was formative in their lives was a bird ringing experience. Actually seeing birds alive in the hand. Mostly when you see birds that are in the hand, they're dead, and you can actually see the feathers close up and open your hand and let the bird go. It's a very formative experience for many young people. And I'd be delighted to actually replicate that experience over and over again, because I know it's just such an important thing of actually changing how the space between our ears works.
Lovely, thank you. Cheryl, screen's yours.
Thank you, Prof. Environmental education is one of the most crucial subjects in order to change our future generation. It can be put into the school syllabus in all the learning areas, including mathematics. So when it comes to the data collection, children are so keen to collect some data. They will count the dung beetles. They will even count the dung. So yeah, maybe just look broader. And I think you can make a huge difference in schools, especially schools that could travel. They normally travel, say, 2 hours to get to you. If you can put them up and teach them how to love nature and to make them become part of the whole process, and then they realize from a young age that they can make a difference. And you'll see the difference in that child as compared to a child that's had never had any impact. And they can, and they probably will go into this field and make a difference. So even spoors, putting up cameras, we've done that with learners, and they would love to see, they put the cameras up the day before, and the next morning they're the first ones up to see what passed the cameras. And then they can actually put little PowerPoint presentations together on their cameras. And they say, oh, we didn't have anything that moved past ours, but let's try again tonight. And you'll be surprised what these children can actually do. They have the most amazing way, and they become investigators with their little magnifying glasses. And yeah, they just need the chance, and places like your place could make a huge difference in a child's development. Thank you. I'm sorry, that's my passion.
Yeah, no, I share it. Cheryl, you at TUT, that?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Can we chat offline, perhaps tomorrow? Somebody can send us each other our email addresses. We can ask Aisha to send email addresses.
Sorry, it will have to be Monday. Tomorrow I've got a crazy schedule on. yeah, Monday will be perfect. Even Tuesday, Wednesday, but I'm open for it. I've got another ex-LCA person as well, which I've got a date with. And yeah, we just want to get out there and make a difference, and we can incorporate this into the CAPS curriculum. And I firmly believe our CAPS curriculum is very boring. And I think it's time we liven it up, because our children are not learning from the current curriculum. I'm trying to push the education department as hard as possible, and I'm hitting a brick wall. So when we got dynamic people like you coming online, we can actually start rewriting all these chapters which they want to teach our children, and we can make a difference. It's not Jack and Jill went up the hill. What about the dragonfly, you know? We can start doing things like that. So my Mandla series is hopefully going to be coming out not too soon, but I'm writing about a rhino, but I'm busy with that. And I'm making use of diagrams and drawings. And of course, I've got the puppets and the mascots to deal with that. But yeah, let's try and do something like that. And yeah, we'll chat.
Yeah, so Cheryl, one of my PhD students was a dismal failure. She failed to get into research, so she became a ruddy school teacher. And you know, do you say that was a PhD? It was a waste of time, and she's winning prizes for best teacher. Just imagine having a science teacher who spent a year on Marion Island doing albatrosses and things like that. And she's been involved with the development of the syllabus for marine biology. And so yeah, you've got this failed PhD which was unsuccessful in becoming a researcher, actually going into developing syllabus of schools, and making a huge impact in an area where she never really expected to make an impact.
Yeah.
And I've got a former postdoc at Camps Bay High School, and I know somebody at Pinelands High School also with a PhD, and who's passionate about education. And maybe I should actually put these people in touch with you as well, and you can all inspire each other to make a difference to the school syllabus.
Maybe that failed PhD student just had the wrong topic. It was just not up her alley. So maybe she needs to do a PhD in interlink and environmental education into the school curriculum.
Yeah, but she has a PhD. She's actually.
Oh, she got one.
She got the PhD. She just didn't get into a research career afterwards. Okay. And becoming a school teacher was a way to earn a crust when the research opportunities didn't open up. And you know, I made the suggestion that she become a school teacher, and it was from what my assessment of what happened in my office that day. Gosh, it was the most unpopular suggestion I've ever made. But yet, when she talks about life, she talks about that occasion as being the formative moment in her life. This brilliant suggestion that she become a school teacher, and she's done exceptionally well as a school teacher. And you can imagine it's a real privilege to be taught by somebody who's had all those experiences, and recognized by the Department of Education as such, and invited onto the committee that plans the marine biology syllabus, as opposed to just having a few people just planning it who don't really have any sort of deep experience of marine biology. So her master's was in Algoa Bay on some shellfish type, reef fish type things. So she got broad experience beyond birds and just birds, albatrosses. So she got wide experience. So she was a real great person for getting involved in that. And
Oh,
I think
so yeah.
all you people ought to be sort of, in some sense, linked together, because I think one of our problems is that we actually don't have this network. And this for me has been a great networking occasion, as I think all of you have seen.
Mm. So maybe she can actually develop her learners as little researchers, wherever she's based, even if it's at the sea, walk the beach. And that little story that comes to mind is about the starfish. That one little starfish which you throw back could make the difference. So yeah, she can actually start doing something like that. And yeah, a teacher like that should never be stopped, and she should just be encouraged to carry on and carry on. And yeah, I would love to be in contact with her. And as I said, I've got so many people I've got to be in contact with, and I've got so many dates. Even with Alison, I've got a date with her.
Thank you. And we've already, behind the screens, Aisha and Maret has shared yours and Les's email addresses with one another so that we can make a change. That is very important. So I'm quickly going to go through the chat questions, not to keep the evening going on too long. From Sam, or Samuel, a question: do you reckon that the presence of the research facility around the farm is impacting the farm's management, operations, and productivity? You basically almost answered that, actually.
I think the answer to that is not yet, but it certainly will. I'm sure of that, and I think PC he's very happy to have us there, because I think he knows that that it will make an impact on his operation.
Lovely. Let's see here. Any excellent points? Please excuse me. And then again from Dalian van der Merwe, we have a school program here at the Crocodile River Reserve. We have an environmental educator. She works out presentations in line with the school curriculum, and we bring the children in from informal settlements once every 3 months for nature walks. So I think it's vital. We need people just like you and Cheryl just spoke. Maybe that is something of the future. And then I know someone shared, they did ask for how we can, it was Stephen Spottiswood, who shared with everyone the link to the New Homes Nature Lodge. So it's there, 1945 by Steve, he shared it. And I hope that is it. Student, please. Johan's asking all the students that are in attendance and everyone else to please join us on the 27th for another talk by Les. And then a last one from Andy Klee. There's a project in the UK. No, Andy, let's unmute you. You can ask it yourself. It's all good.
Oh, thanks, Ron. It wasn't really a question. It was more following up on the projects that, students and all the rest of it can get involved in. We've got one that we get our students involved in. You collect shark egg cases from the Strand line. There's an ID guide, and then you can go online and submit your data, and then it helps them monitor the populations of sharks and rays offshore around the UK. It's just, there are little things like that you can do wherever you are. It's just building on the sorts of projects Cheryl and Les have been talking about to get the kids going. It's uses the tech, gets them going. It's just, there's some really good stuff to do. So it's just another thing to think about.
There's a clone of that here, sharks and shark egg cases, photographs of. So that's that. There is somebody who's tackled that in South Africa.
Yeah, and iNature and all those things are fantastic, aren't they? Just you can do it wherever you are. So there's, like I say, get the kid, light the flame in the kids early and let them go. It's brilliant. I'll shut up. Thanks very much. Brilliant talk. Love it. Thanks, Les.
Thank you, Andy.
No need for you to shut up, Andy. It's absolutely not necessary at all. So if there are no other questions in the room, I hope, let's see, there's one. Can also please get contact with Tebogo. We'll make absolutely sure that we Maret, please make a note that we link Tebogo with Les as well so that they can work on those the stewardship and the ASEC talks. If there are no other questions in the room, I am calling it an evening. We've been busy for a while. It's been absolutely wonderful to have Les with us tonight, and every single member of our family. It was wonderful to have you all. Have a wonderful evening, a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, wherever you are in the world. And I hope to see you next Thursday. Les, thank you very, very much for everything and for the talk. It was absolutely wonderful to have you.